And we're live. Hey people, how you doing? Welcome to episode 145 of the Sports Therapy Association podcast. My name is Matt Phillips. I'm creator of OneChatLive.com. And as always, this episode is being recorded live on a Tuesday at 8 o'clock on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel. Because it is recorded live, then people can join us obviously in the live lounge. And when people do join us, they can say stuff and I can bring it up on the screen. So it's a lovely way of networking and showing off your photo or your maybe your therapist logo or something. So Glenn Murphy's in the house. Hey Glenn, first to the door, nice to see you. Nikki Mansfield is here. Evening Groovers, says Nikki. Glenn has come back with, hey, have you got your dancing shoes on? I presume he's talking to Nikki. She's famous for her dancing shoes. Deborah is here. Hey Deborah 𝗧𝗵𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗧. Sorry about the pronunciation. We'll go for 𝗧𝗵𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗧. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you. So yeah, if you are listening to the podcast and you do like the idea of coming and joining us live and asking the guests questions directly and hanging out with other soft tissue therapists, then all you got to do, like I say, is go along to the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. We've done it for the last 145 weeks without fail. And yeah, you can join us live. Okay. Right. So what are we doing this month? Our focus is on CPD happening either online or face-to-face in the UK. So last week, fantastic. I mean, I'm biased again, as always, but last week we had Dr. Gary Mendoza on the show, founder of Stages of Change, whose online motivational interviewing and behavior change course I actually did a couple of months ago, along with two other attendees who also joined us in the live lounge, 𝗕𝗏𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and 𝗕𝗏𝗂𝐻 Taylor. And we chatted about the course. I mean, we all enjoyed it thoroughly. I always try and get a balanced argument, but we all kind of thought it was fantastic. And it's all about, in a nutshell, you can give fantastic advice to the person in front of you, your client or your patient, but if they're not in the right stage of their life or mind to actually adhere to that advice and make that behavior change, then you're wasting your breath. And you can't blame them because it was up to you to identify what stage in terms of behavior change they're in and then modify the kind of advice you give them. So it's such an important part of being in healthcare, whether you're a therapist, massage therapist, whether you're giving nutrition advice or anything. If you're looking for changing the client in front of you, then you need to understand and ask them the right questions and listen correctly to understand where they are in terms of making that behavior change. So obviously it's available on all podcast apps, including Spotify. If you want to watch the video, you can go to YouTube channel, Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel. And also everything gets uploaded to 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏𝑐𝑜.uk. This episode, we're going to be joined by Ben Cormack, founder of 𝗊𝗁𝗏𝗃 and one half of the Better Clinician Project, together with 𝗵𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏𝗃. Ben's going to be joined this week by three people. I've really loaded them onto him tonight. Three people who attended his Therapeutic Movement Exercise CPD course. I said, oh, there might be someone along who might have done your course just to add. And in fact, now there's three who have put their hand up saying, yeah, I've got something to say. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we're all going to be chatting about this particular course by Ben Cormack. And I'm going to be joined by Imi Testa, who's been on the show before, Sarah Jones of Affinity Bodyworks, and also Theo Clitherow is going to join us. As always, people in the live lounge, thanks for joining us live. Still people coming through. You are more than welcome. I mean, I do this live. I always say I do it live because I couldn't do it if it wasn't live. I like that live interaction. There's no editing for this. I'm far too lazy for that. What gets said gets put out unless there's something really expletive. And I know tonight's guest doesn't swear, so that's going to be fine. So yeah, oh, Tracy's here from last week. Hey, Tracy, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. So yeah, if you've got questions, just fire them away and we will definitely answer them. So I think that's everything done. At the end of the show, I'll say what's happening next week. But for now, let's bring up Ben Cormack, Imi Testa, Sarah Jones, and Theo Clitherow. In no particular order. Hey, Ben, how you doing?
I'm all right, my friend. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm sorry that you're going to get a bit squashed tonight on the screen with three other people, but I'm confident that they all enjoyed it. I haven't asked them yet, but you got big shoulders. You're not worried, are you?
Well, I thought this was all going to be about me, Matt, and then suddenly, you know, you've diluted it.
It's going to be about you, boy. Don't you worry. It's going to be all about Ben. Yeah, it's going to be three other people talking about you instead of Ben Cormack talking.
I can take it.
You'll be fine. All right, so we've also got in the room in no particular order, Theo Clitherow is joining us as well. Hey, Theo, how you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. Yeah, how are you guys?
Thanks very much for joining us. And let's bring up the rest of the gang. Imi Testa is going to come up now. Hey, Imi, how you doing?
Hi. Yeah, just finished work, so I skived off early to be here.
This is the Back on Track soft tissue therapy, isn't it? I love the name of that. It's very nice, very nice. A bit long for a Twitter handle, Back on Track soft tissue therapy, but
I'm too old for Twitter. Can't be too old.
So if you were young and sprucey like Ben, you would have just chosen 𝗊𝗄𝗏 because that can fit on any social media handle. But yeah, Ben's younger than us. So. Sarah Jones as well is here. Hey Sarah, how you doing? Coming up now. How you doing, Sarah?
Hiya, how you doing?
Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here.
It really wasn't difficult for me to find people who have done Ben's course. Now, what does that say? I mean, straight away, it means a lot of people have done Ben's course. So we're going to talk about that shortly. I'm going to give you guys a chance to basically give a little bit about your history and why you chose it, and how it's affected your profession. Okay, we'll give you a chance. But first, over to Ben. Ben, obviously, I've known you for a long time. I think I went to your course. I think I looked online somewhere. I looked at our emails, Twitter exchange. It's about 2013. So it was like, yeah, it was like 11 years ago.
Wow.
I
think I was running it at a health club in Mill Hill in North London at the time, if I remember, because it was my mate who managed the place and he used to give me the room for cheap.
It was a little room upstairs. Yeah. And you had to come out and find me because it was impossible to find otherwise. And you were there waving. I went, oh, here you go. First time I met you. And then, yeah, it was great. And then we did something else a couple of years later. So, yeah, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. And, yeah, now you jet set around the world, isn't it? Rather than just from different parts of North London.
Yeah. I don't just do North London anymore. Yeah. I mean, it used to just be the tube stops.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I went from Hendon down to like Mill Hill and I'm very fortunate over the last 10 years. I think the last count was I've taught it in 33 countries. And I've managed to do all of the continents, I think, apart from, and that's the continents, not the consonants, apart from the Antarcticas. No one's invited me to the Antarcticas yet, either one, the North or the South. So, but yeah, I've managed to hop over to Australia and to the States and to South America and over to Asia. And yeah, so lots and lots of places over the last 10 years.
Incredible. And indeed, an extra thank you to you because I believe you're off to New York, is it?
Yes, I'm teaching this weekend, 22nd, 23rd, the Big Apple. But I do have to get an 8:25 flight from Heathrow in the morning. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure we finish on 9 o'clock on the dot.
And then I won't be able to sleep anyway, will I? The pressure will be on. So, yeah.
Don't tell me you get pressure after a decade of...
Oh, not to teach the course, just to go to sleep.
Oh, I see.
Oh, the course is no worry. I've talked that enough times about sleeping. It's fine.
Excellent. For people who are listening, who don't know you, they don't know 𝗊𝗄𝗏, and they don't know what the course is about. I know it's tricky with elevator pitches and things like that, but what do you think makes your course fairly unique amongst the other things which look into exercise and movement?
Yeah, so I think my course is about movement and exercise, essentially. I'm a big proponent of an active approach to rehab. That's always been something that I think is really important. I think so many painful problems are enacted, they're embodied, they involve using our bodies and doing things, that even physical things also have a psychological element to them. And I think what I try and do with the course around the act of moving, not just exercise, around the act of moving and using our body, I try to bring in lots and lots of different elements that I think are really important to like the whole kind of physio MSK process, so communication is important. How we talk to our patients is important. How we treat them, how we implement things like the BPS model. I'm a big advocate of things like evidence-based medicine. So bringing in lots of the latest research, understanding, movement, what it is and what it isn't. Sometimes we have a very strange view of movement that's very unnatural, very mechanical, that doesn't often actually reflect what human beings do. And so the course is really about, someone once called it a Trojan horse. So I sneak people in through this exercise thing, but really it involves lots of other aspects. And any job that works with treating patients or treating people involves so many different facets of, you know, of different elements that involves. It's not just, you know, in the same way massage is not just rubbing people, moving people is not just, you know, doing an exercise. There's loads of other things that go into that. But one of the things that's always remained constant is that it's really founded on, you know, the latest research and the latest evidence, and something that I think is really, really important for cutting through the swathes of opinion that we have.
So that must mean, I mean, there's a couple of words which you've dropped in there, which our listeners will be very familiar with, which we'll come to in a second. But we're also telling our listeners, who are a lot of soft tissue therapists, that things have changed in the last 10 years, and it's natural to have evolved. If you're still preaching and doing the same thing as you did word for word as you were doing even 5 years ago, that it probably means you're not staying current with kind of tweaks and subtle changes. So if you've been in the business for, I think we can safely say 2 decades now, can't we?
Well, I mean, I think I probably only look like I've been doing it for 1 decade, but in reality, yes, probably 2.
So you must have seen a lot of stuff change.
Yeah.
You must have tweaked your slides quite a lot.
Oh, well, I tweak my slides like every course anyway, just because there's always new stuff coming out. But, you know, so I think when I first got into the movement world, it was things like functional biomechanics and, you know, all of these different fancy things. And I think over the years, we realized the specificity of our interaction and the specificity of how we work with people is probably a lot more important than the specificity of how we use our hands or the specificity of how we teach an exercise. But that goes right back to, you know, the BPS model, which is back in the 50s and 60s, which was telling us that sometimes actually science is telling us to be less scientific and more human. And I think sometimes the way that we're taught, you know, isn't always humanistic. It's often quite mechanical, and that's probably easier to teach definitively, isn't it? It's easier to teach, you know, these kind of very, very fixed processes. Whereas in truth, you know, lots of this stuff is not that fixed, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends how you look at it.
Definitely. So we'll have that as an intro. That's great. That's given listeners an idea of where you're coming from. I think we'll be able to expand on that now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of our other guests, people who have attended your course randomly. And I just want you guys to explain, you're all going to go, but just what made you, how you discovered Ben, and what made you think, yeah, I want to do this therapeutic movement and exercise course, and then what you got from it. Okay, depending on your profession, it might be different if you're into slightly different things, because as always, and I love saying this because it's so important, there's no such thing as the perfect CPD course for everybody. If you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, oh, Matt's just pushing a course he thinks everyone should do, no, I can guarantee that, I don't know how many, let's make up a statistic, 20% of you listeners should not do Ben's course, because I know there's going to be reasons that it's not going to be applicable to you. It could be a financial thing. I don't want you to part with money if you haven't got enough money to put food on the table for your kids. It could be a travel thing. It could be that you're not ready yet. You might need a little bit of reading beforehand. It could be that there's something else which is going to be more useful to you because of your target audience or your skills or whatever it is. So there's no such thing as a perfect CPD for everybody. That said, I've got 3 people here who are going to tell you why they personally found it useful for their career. So should we go for it? Should we go for Imi Testa? How are you?
Hi.
Tell me about how you found Ben and how you found Ben.
Anna Maria told me to do it.
Oh, Anna Maria Mazzieri. So Anna's managed to make it into the yeah.
If she told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it?
I would. Yes.
Yeah, I was interested because I don't come from a sports or a sports therapy background. So my movement and exercise is an area that I need to develop more. And so that was interesting, and it was a lot about back pain on it, so which was interesting.
So sorry, just to jump, sorry to butt in, but what is your background then? Did you do classical massage, or did you go straight to sports massage?
So massage therapist or like soft tissue therapist now. I'm level 5, whatever that means. But yeah, my background was beauty therapy. That's originally. So I've not come in through a sporting background. So that movement side of it was definitely an area in my business that needed to be. I needed a lot more knowledge and confidence.
Excellent.
And that was the thing.
On your certification, then they didn't cover that as part of the course. No, it was more hands-on stuff, and that's fine. That's the way it
the
is.
level 5 did a little bit, but you know, I'm not confident in that area. I would say I wasn't confident. Well, you're never confident. The more you learn, the less you know, don't you? But so that was why I chose the course. Yeah, and genuinely one of the best CPD courses I've done. Honestly, definitely
checks in the post.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
No, genuine, and it gave me so much confidence because some of the things. So there was a lot of background knowledge, a lot of evidence. So that was great. It was very funny and engaging, which is always good. You don't want to sit there for 2 days, like trying not to fall asleep. But there's a lot of practical elements, and it gave me confidence. I learned a lot, but also some things I kind of been intuitively maybe doing that I wasn't sure was right was okay. It was sort of what I was doing was okay. So there were some things I was kind of already doing, and I learned that was okay, and it didn't have to be fancy or complicated. It just had to engage with the person and get them moving. So that was really reassuring and really boosted my confidence. Yeah, a lot of the information wise, you know, what to be aware of, as in, you know, my scope of practice, my bar for referral is really low. So what to be aware of red flag wise, but also how to reassure your client that it might be, I think one of the key phrases that I remember was, it might be seriously painful, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily serious or worrisome. So that sort of reassurance that you can give your client. And I genuinely use stuff off this course every single week. I write in my notes, I just write Ben Cormack stuff. just like Ben stuff. And so I think the best story I had was I had a client he was a previous regular client. He then had a I can never pronounce that, discectomy, and had been told by his surgeon he would never forward flex ever again in his life. And yeah, so I don't know how he's going to go to the loo. And he came because he was really sad. He put on loads of weight. He was pretty down. And I pretty much followed what I learned on the course to a T. And he's back in the gym. He's lifting. He's doing everything he wants to do. So I was really, I double checked everything. But I started off with the ball rolling and with the great big medicine balls, just chatting, distracting him, seeing what he could do, doing fun stuff. And yeah, it was amazing. He was so happy. And that was like my one big, a big success story. But I use stuff off it all the time. Yeah. Brilliant. So very practical.
Excellent. Okay. So as a business, and we mustn't forget that obviously we're not doing this just for, or most of us are not just doing it for love, we're doing it for money as well, especially this year, as we know is going to be a bit tougher for everybody. You felt that it's added business, business to your business as well. Yeah. You're able to look after clients more and get rid of results.
Definitely. It's given me confidence of what I can do, when to refer and what to say when I do need to refer, what I can do, how to interact with clients better, and do work with them in a way that doesn't necessarily overcomplicate things or make it scary or like, a lot of my clients aren't in the gym. They're not sports people. So it was really nice on the course to learn just ways of getting people moving that they could do at home really easily, that didn't involve going to a gym, that wasn't sort of scary. And for my clients, the gym is not where they want to be. So I could really bring that for them and do simple movements that they go, oh yeah, I can do that. That's not a problem, rather than movements that might alienate them. So yeah, absolutely been a huge benefit.
Okay, so I mean, you've raised some amazing points there. I'm sure, hopefully, that will resonate with some of the listeners who have got the same background as you. Ben, you're listening to that. Is that that must be nice for you to hear? But does it resonate in terms of that's what you're trying to give people who come to you in Imi's position?
Well, I think the point there is that people have so many different types of clients, from people who are gym people to not gym people. There are more people than that, those two binary options. But, I always say the great skill of a good clinician or the good skill of a great clinician is to be flexible and adaptable. And I think what I want to help people to understand is there's so many different ways to work with people. And sometimes it doesn't have to be fancy or technical or whatever. Sometimes it just boils down to building people's confidence again. People get worried, they get scared, they get told silly stuff by, surgeons and doctors that's not actually accurate. Things like you'll never forward flex again. Which isn't in any type of guidelines or advice that I see at a national level. So I think sometimes it's just giving people the confidence to be able to work with a wide variety of populations and just not overcomplicate it. It doesn't need to be. This was, you talked to me about 20 years in practice. And one thing I've learned over the last 20 years is what I learned 20 years ago was horribly overcomplicated. This pressure and, various other, technical shenanigans. And actually, none of it has turned out to be very accurate or very, very beneficial. But what has remained constant is getting people moving and getting them confident to do so often has profound results.
Excellent. Yeah. So far, the theme has been not overcomplicating things. Fun, I think, was a word that Imi said a few times. And that's so important as well. I love the way you started off saying that they're enjoyable, because we've heard that before on the podcast with various people is our clients need to have fun. Fun is playing is something which comes so naturally, the way we learn, develop as kids. So, and Ben is fun. Let's face it. He's a lovely presenter. For most people, you'll find him very charming and funny. Unless our next two guests say something to the contrary, but I think he's funny. Right, let's move on. Thanks, Imi, for that. Really cool. Theo, tell us about your background and how you found Ben and how you found Ben.
Yeah, so I'm a soft tissue therapist. I'm training as one at the moment. I'm very, very nearly done. It's also through 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏's school. So again, she gets mentioned. I'm sure she will be again later. So I'm very, very close to finishing with that. And
sorry, what level are you talking about? Is it?
It's the BTEC level 5 diploma. Okay. So I'm doing that through Devon. But I finished all my classes, and I took Ben's course in, I think it was the December session down in Exeter that we did it. And for me, I'm coming from that manual therapy training school. I'm looking to actually train as a physio, kind of move into more of the exercise-based rehab and in that sort of injury setting. Even though I think as a soft tissue therapist, it would be great for me. I know that my future, I think physio is what I want to do. So I wanted to kind of get some more skills around therapeutic movement, kind of exercise-based rehab exercises, those kind of things. And obviously as well, learn a bit more about back pain, which seems to just debilitate so many people. You meet, I want to say like 1 in 4 people seem to end up having it at some point. So I found that to be like a good stepping stone to build up my knowledge and get me ready for kind of physiotherapy direction.
Fantastic. Okay, so you've decided to go into physiotherapy. So is that because you like the idea of working in a hospital with different departments and being able to work with a wider group of people and become an allied health professional? Is that something?
It's partly that. It's I have a Canadian girlfriend who I can't actually do soft tissue therapy in Canada. So it's something that I can take with me wherever I go. I know I'll get work. Everyone knows what a physiotherapist does. I think everyone does. And
mind you, in Canada, massage is covered by insurance.
Yes, but you have to do a 2-year degree. Really? To do it, yeah. So it's just something I've kind of figured for me with my kind of background is in research, and I really like the application of the science and the role that you can play there doing that as a physio.
Beautiful. So was there particularly an aspect of Ben's course that you remember which you thought this is going to be useful and it has proved to be useful?
Yeah, I'd say it's more like the framework that I learned from it of how to work with people, and that again, it comes down to the person you're working with, the individual. And Ben obviously taught us through some clients will need more education, some might need to be, like you were saying earlier, Amy, about have some confidence built up within them around movement. And some might just literally just need some exercises that they can do. They're going to go and do that in their spare time. So I think it's about being person-centered, really. And then also about how to discuss the nature of back pain and, complex pain with people a bit. Reassure them that a lot of the time it's episodic, things like that. I'd say that kind of overall clinical framework I found really useful.
Fantastic. Ben, you're sitting there nodding away. You can relate to that?
Yeah, well, I think that if you are going to treat a condition, that you do have to understand that condition. I mean, I think that, there is a level of understanding epidemiology, understanding diagnostic criteria, understanding prognosis, understanding prognostic factors. These things are important because they form part of how you work with people, how you educate people, how you treat people. People want to know, why has it been called? What has caused it? How long is it going to take? What can I do to get it better? And sometimes how much is it going to cost me? And we need to be able to discuss that. I need to be able to discuss what are some of the things that are involved with lower back pain? What are some of the things that are not involved with lower back pain, even more powerfully? What are some of the things that people believe that they've got slip discs? Slip discs are exceptionally rare. About 1 to 3% of symptomatic back pain right at this moment in time is from a herniated disc. But people believe that these things are far more prevalent than they really are. And that is debilitating for people. That is what is disabling for them, is that they get this misinformation. They get these diagnostic criteria and labels that aren't actually accurate for their problem. We know that sciatica manifests itself below the knee. Most people don't have pain below the knee, so it's probably not sciatica. It's probably not radicular. And basic information like that, I think, is so powerful for working with patients. But it means you have to be up to date. You have to understand the condition you're working with. Again, we talk about it being episodic. We know that most back pain lasts between 2 to 6 weeks. Some people think they're going to have it forever. Back pain is a problem of reoccurrence, episodes reoccurring. It's not the same as a frozen shoulder in terms of its timeline or its natural history. It's not the same as a plantar fasciitis. So therefore, you do have to understand that in order to effectively inform and help your patients make sense of the problem that they have. And people want to know about their problem. And if you don't know about the problem, you can't help them know about the problem.
Definitely makes sense. Fantastic. Okay, I don't want to leave Sarah there without sharing her story, because then once we've got all three of your perspectives, we can get into the nitty-gritty of the course. So Sarah, what's your background and what made you turn to Ben's course?
So I'm another soft tissue therapist, so I did the level 5 BTEC course with Anna Maria again. And I'm a little bit one of those people that did originally, like pre-COVID, did all the CPD courses, like anything I could get my hands on, I would do. And then after COVID, all being a bit more careful with money, I started getting a little bit more picky with what I wanted to do. And I think I'd heard Ben possibly on Therapy Live, something like that. I'd missed out on his previous course with the school. So as soon as I saw it pop up, I was like, I need to go to that. It's one of the ones I need to do, because it's such a common thing, lower back pain, that we all need to be really solid with our knowledge on it, I think, and how to approach people. So that's kind of why I chose it. And I would say for the course, it was a really high value course, it's one of those courses that you just take a lot away from. There's a lot of content. Like Imi said, there's not a chance to get bored, but there's a lot to take in as well. I mean, I'm sort of having a little pre-read of my notes. There's, you know, a few things that I was like, okay, I need to remember that as well. So really, really good value. It's just about being able to give confidence back to your clients that their back pain, you know, if it's the non-specific lower back pain, that it's episodic. We can almost predict it. Ben talked about how we can rehab at the bottom of the pain curve. So rather than waiting until they're really bad, you approach them when they're at the bottom of that curve, when they're actually feeling better. That's the best time that you can get rehabbed. So I've used that a few times with a few people and I had really good results. And again, like Imi said, you know, it's having those people in that have had the disc herniations or disc bulge or whatever they want to call it, and just giving them a bit of confidence back with movement and just not being so rigid with movement for exercise prescription. It's allowing self-organisation. There's one thing that I use a lot is movement snacks, like all the time. So I say that to everybody. You know, we don't have to give reps and sets if that's not how people are going to work, because your average person probably isn't going to be massively comfortable in the gym, doesn't want to go to a gym, and you need to find ways to work around at home. And I think that's what I like about it, is that's the way it's approached. You had all the information, you had all the science behind it, but then we were allowed a little bit of freedom with you know, how we can approach these clients. So that's what I took away from it, really.
Magnificent. I'm sitting here thinking, obviously you guys all did Ben's course, you all linked because it was hosted by Anna Maria in Exeter at the soft tissue school, the ST school. So I'm conscious that you guys all went on to Ben's course with a pretty excellent, probably one of the best level 5s in the country, in the sense that it's already evidence informed. Anna Maria has done an awful lot of work to make sure that the course she delivers is evidence informed, and that means it's considerably different to the general level 5s which are out there offered by probably 90% of other establishments. So I'm interested how do you think the course would have been received by somebody who wasn't as clued up already on things like biopsychosocial? Because on most courses out there, level 5 means you're going to do even more incredible things with your hand. This one we call this by this acronym, you know, they're not going to be aware of it. So do you think it would have been a bit of a shock for people who still went there thinking break down knots, or would it have still been accessible and kind of...
It would, and I know a few of those courses, unfortunately. There's one locally to me, but I won't name drop, but they're very mechanistic in their approach. It's very biomechanical. I think things are slowly changing. It's going to take a long time. I think we had that change that started in COVID. So, you know, we actually got a positive out of that because people started realizing that there's something more to what we do, but also what we thought was happening isn't happening. So I think it's still a little bit of a shock. I think people need to keep on top of their CPD a bit better and take a bit of responsibility around it, rather than switching off to it. So, you know, the things around Therapeutic Alliance is massively important, but who would have thought, you know, if you told me that 3 years ago, probably wouldn't have been high up on my list, but now it's very high on my list. So I think it's a steep learning curve for a lot of people.
So Ben, for you as person delivering the course, do you find can be some variety in what page people are on when they come and see you, or are they all kind of already on the right page and you're not going to shock them too much?
Well, no, look, I think a lot of people, there is a selection bias. You know, I think that people know who I am. You know, I've delivered lots of CPD over the years, lots of podcasts, you know, big things like Therapy Lives, and, you know, I've been around a bit. So are you always going to get people who know what they're going to get, you know, and they've come because that's what they're going to get. And there'll be other people that come because it sounds a bit interesting, or I've kind of heard of that guy, or maybe they've seen a paper that I've written or read a blog, or, you know, I don't know, or they're coming with a friend, or I'm coming to their clinic or something like that. So there are always people that do have some different ideas and different backgrounds and different biases. And you know what? That's brilliant, because what would be the point of having a load of people in a room all preaching off the same hymn sheet to some degree? Because at the end of the day, we are a rich tapestry of people, aren't we? A veritable smorgasbord There you go. And I think that's really important because it gives us an opportunity to discuss these different ideas. We do a lot of discussion in the course. And so therefore we get to, I was in Denmark in last October, and I remember one side of the room were McKenzie physios, and the other side of the room were these ardent, like pain science type of, physios. And we had these great discussions because we're coming from, my perspective is, what is the evidence? What is the data? What is the science? And then we had two other people, maybe with slightly different philosophical stance, McKenzie, mechanical diagnosis and therapy, and then pain science, nothing matters. It's all about pain. And we had some wonderful discussions. And what it shows us is there's lots of ways to get to the end result. People come with lots of different presentations. There are lots of different perspectives. And anyone who doesn't entertain that or doesn't accept that or doesn't even bring that to the forefront, I think it's doing a bit of a disservice. And we're going back in time to the days where it was all about do my system or my method. And for me, actually, it's recognizing there are lots of ideas. Lots of them have value, lots of value. But sometimes there are similarities that are quite similar, even though they're quite different at the same time. And for me, it's about talking about those, highlighting those, and then also saying, well, what do we actually know, and maybe what is actually dogma? And I think that's really important. I think that's a much better learning process than just saying, well, this is what I do and this is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. We mentioned sort of pain science quite a few times. How important do you think it is, Ben, to go through pain science? How much do therapists need to be up to date with our, at the moment, current kind of theories on pain? And also, how much of that needs to be taught to the client or patient in front of us? Because I imagine they might be a bit different.
Yeah, look, I mean, I went down a huge pain science rabbit hole in the 2010s, like a lot of people did, you get into your ion channels and your macrophages and your cytokines, and and actually I really enjoyed talking about that stuff. It kind of stroked my fragile ego a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think it's important that we know that pain is more complex than just bad mechanics, or pain is more complex than just pathology. I think that's really, really important. Is it physiological? Absolutely. Is it biological? Absolutely. So I think we need to appreciate that it's, it is complex and it involves multiple systems. It involves the brain and the spinal cord and what happens peripherally, the immune system, the stress system, all of these different things. How deep do we need to go? And I talk about diagnosis in this sense, this concept of granularity. So granularity really means how big or how small do I need to go into this? And so diagnosis, red flags, this is important. Specific back pain, things like axial spondyloarthritis, radicular pain, radiculopathy, these things are important. When we get into, is it a muscle, is it a ligament, is it a tendon, these things are less important, right? We don't need to become that granular often. That's what the research tells us. So if we look at pain, is it important to know hurt doesn't equal harm? Absolutely, because it explains why a paper cut hurts like hell, but you don't die. Are there other things that we need to understand about pain? Absolutely. There are multiple things influencing it. It's not just a simple relationship between tissue and pain. Do I need to know, and do I need to take my patients on a journey into the immune system? Do they need to know about the role of interleukin 6 versus interleukin 17? Probably not. I probably don't need to become that granular. So I think for me, that's, again, this is what we focus on. There's kind of, what do we need to know? What's nice to know? And so there's lots of things that are nice to know, and I can look super smart talking about them, but my patients probably don't care, and my students probably don't care. And actually the time would be much better spent doing something else. So fundamentally, I think there are key things that we need to understand about pain. Do we need to understand the in-depth neurophysiology, immune system, HPA axis? We could go there. I can do it if I need to, but I probably think there's value in other things as well, like understanding who is this person. And there's a great quote from a woman called 𝗂𝗵𝗶𝗂𝗂. And she said, we have given pain the agency rather than the person in pain the agency. And I think that's really key. Sometimes we talk about pain. We don't talk about this person's pain. And I think that's a problem because, you know, pain becomes this thing, this entity that's more important than the person who's experiencing it. And I think that's probably the wrong way round to look at it.
That's very nice. I haven't heard that before. I need to put you in my favorite followers list, obviously, because I haven't seen that. I like that. We talk about pain rather than this person's pain. That's very deep. That's good. Great stuff. Imi and Sarah and Theo, a part of Ben's course is an understanding of pain. And did you guys, I'm interested whether you guys have ever felt the dangers of misinterpreting or where a bit of pain education you thought would help your client and it didn't. I mean, I'm thinking of this classic idea of you don't want to say pain is the brain, because it's like that's saying pain's in the head, and they're just going to hear, oh, you're thinking I'm imagining this, am I? And that's just like a terrible road to go down. But have any of you experienced in your kind of clinical journeys where you thought, oh, how am I going to say this, or I shouldn't have said that, or this has all gone wrong with regards to helping your clients understand pain?
I definitely went through a phase of banging on about it a bit too much to my client. And they're not,
there you go. That's a
they're
nice
not
way
really
to
that interested. Well, some of them are, but later, you know, to start with, they're just because like we're soft tissue therapists, we predominantly people have come to see us because we do massage, and in that initial treatment, certainly, or that initial appointment, they're just miserable. They just want to be listened to, validated, bit of your Greg Layman calming. Can I say shit? Well, I've said it. Calming shit down.
Oh my God!
And to start with, that is pretty much it. And then we get into sort of like it's that sort of it's a bit like it's sort of letting them know without banging on about it. It's just sort of dropping things in there or asking them questions that get them to go, oh, actually, no, that's like, so it's more getting them to come up with the ideas themselves. But I absolutely went through a phase of banging on about it. Oh my God, I feel so sorry for my clients. Yeah, I did that. 100%.
You can watch them. You can see them glaze over.
Glazing over, nodding politely, looking at the clock. Yeah. So yeah, I've done it. Yeah, but it's an ongoing process, isn't it? You're constantly tweaking what you do, what you say, as new information comes on, but also learning. Spending a lot of time, which I'm rubbish. I'm so bad at in my personal life, listening to people. But at work, I really suck it in my ADHD and I'd really try and do it at work. As soon as I get home, no. But yeah, like really trying to just sit and listen. And rather than just vomiting what I've learned on the last course at them. But it's hard because you've got that, they call it the writing reflex.
Yeah,
you want
that's what Gary said last week.
Tell them all the fancy stuff you've learned, and especially if you're not particularly confident sort of a person. It's an ongoing battle.
Great answer. Brilliant. Sarah, that resonated with you, did it? If you feel
I think we've all sort of learnt the pain science stuff, and you kind of just want to tell everyone what you've learnt, and you look how smart I am, and I've over explained it so many times, and it's possible I've lost a couple of clients due to it, but lesson learned. I don't do that now. I've got to simplify it, and it's like Imi said, it's about validating their pain because it's their pain, it's not anybody else's pain. But it's also trying to take the focus away from the pain as well. That they're capable of so much, even though they are experiencing pain. So yeah, I just try not to overdo it now, because it's a bit like verbal diarrhea sometimes.
I'm just wondering, because it's beautiful listening to you guys and the journey you've been on, but I know there's so many, the majority of soft tissue therapists out there haven't even got near that stage of talking about pain too much. And I wonder whether they need to go through that stage to then be able to kind of pull back and think, okay, I know this stuff, it's changed my practice, but I haven't got to tell everyone about it. Because so many people haven't. So many people are still kind of giving out, well, look, the advice the guy had of don't bend over at the waist, you're never going to flex again in your life. I don't know whether he drove to you. Obviously, he must have walked to you. I hope he's not too tall. But if that's being put out there by consultants and GPs, and not all of them, but then how do we stop it from, I don't know, Ben, I mean, we are in a bit of a bubble, aren't we? I mean, there's often talk where the pendulum has swung too far, and now like there's like attacks against the original people who came out with pain education saying they've gone over the top. But in general, do you think there's still a lot of education that is the pendulum swung too far, or as an industry, healthcare, is it still stuck in Cartesian kind of medical models and stuff?
Well, I've never had a patient come in to me and go, oh my God, you know, all these psychosocial factors, they're killing me, right? Do you know what I mean? So yeah. I think that on a really basic level, you know, I think that, you know, sometimes people say, you know, I know when I'm stressed, my back feels bad and these type of things. But I would say the majority of people, and we see this in qualitative research as well, people talking about their hips and their backs, 99% of times it will be from a biomedical or a biomechanical perspective. There's a great Jenny Setchell paper from 2017 about beliefs. They talk about people pick it up from imaging, people pick it up from healthcare professionals, friends and family. Overridingly, the information people get about their injuries and their problems is biomedical and it's biomechanical. There was a paper by Paul Hodges actually just last year, I think, that talked about biological, biomechanical factors were the most common. Then I think it was psychological factors were 5 times less, and then social factors were about 10 times less. So, you know, the world is a biomedical place. Biomedicine makes money. It is the predominant hegemony. And so I do not think the pendulum has swung too far. But I think people do like to, you know, be critical thinkers and point out that it has sometimes. But in reality, you know, I don't get many patients coming to me saying, oh, my God, you know, this pain self-efficacy is just destroying my life. You know, we don't have that, right?
No, not yet. I can't imagine that ever happening.
No.
So yeah, how's your pain journey been? Have you kind of evolved and feel that you've gone too far the other way and then had to come back, or what's it been like for you?
I think I took this course at a really good time, because it was just as I was finishing my course with Anna Maria. And so this was that next step into the clinical world. And it was just before I started really building my client base. Not to say that, you know, I don't make mistakes, or, you know, now and then, that's not the point. But it's helped with having that clinical conversation about a client's pain, like letting them tell their story. And then when I can, you know, when they're telling their story about how the pain occurred, looking at what they've done in the build up to it and breaking it down and explaining then a little bit about the multifactorial nature of pain. I've really tried to embrace that. So making sure, you know, people are sleeping well, and that they've, you know, what they've eaten that day might have led to all sorts of factors. So I think, trying not to go off on a tangent, but yeah, the multifactorial nature of pain has definitely been a key thing I've learned from it, which I'm trying to get across to clients so they can like listen to their body a bit more and know why something might have happened, why it might flare up, why it's not there at that current time, you know.
Excellent. And that's something, the language you use or the way you listen is something which was addressed in Ben's course, was it?
Yeah. It was. Yeah, we did a lot of case studies as well, and I found that really useful, because it's basically coming to us with different clients, different types of clients, and figuring out what they need. You know, so that's again going back to that person-centered approach.
Fantastic. Ben, how is your course divided up? I mean, what I think it says on the website, I can't remember now, but it's divided in terms of case studies and practicals. How do you kind of divide it up, and what's the theory behind it?
I think I do about 40% lecture, which is just me, you know, telling bad jokes and some research.
Yeah,
I like to do probably about 30% discussion. I think discussion is important. because I think it's, integrating how to use research or questioning it, or, what's the relevance of it, or, just these kind of topics. And look, topics always have a whole bunch of different facets, don't they? No topic is facetless. So it's good to kind of think about that. We do some practical stuff, get people up and moving, do some different movement ideas, probably about 20%, 25%. And then, as Theo nicely brought up, we do some educational case study stuff where we do some practical discussion, group pair discussion, not group discussion, sorry, whereby we actually work on discussing back pain. We do some case studies around exercise, and then we do some kind of basic diagnostic case studies as well. So I know that even though, some people won't be in that role and doing that, I think it's also good to be able to recognize different features of problems. It doesn't mean you have to go out there and go, oh my God, you've got axial spondyloarthritis. But if someone that has been missed for the last 10 years, someone saying, well, it sounds a little inflammatory to me, go and get that checked out, probably is really, really helpful. So we try and do case study across a number of different areas. But day one tends to be like communication, looking at the research around movement and exercise, some psychological stuff, exercise science. And then day two, more specifically, is understanding back pain better. Because as I said, if you're going to treat a problem, you really need to know what that problem is and how it manifests itself and these type of things. So I like to think there's a fair amount of variety in there. And, we can chop it up a little bit so people don't just get bored of me waffling on.
Fantastic. I think you're showing on this podcast wonderfully that people can't get bored of you. You've got a lovely way of presenting, and I've always felt that for the decade more, the 12, 13 years I've known you. And that's so important, I think, on CPD. And that's, again, why I say you can't guarantee that one CPD is going to suit everyone, because some people might not like your way of delivery. Some people might want something a bit kind of black and white and without comedy or without fun, which is fine. So it's looking around. See, I think it's such an important part of CPD as well, who delivers it. Very important.
Yeah.
Look,
so just one point, Matt. I think one thing that I always bring up on my course is that, when many, many moons ago, back in the 90s, you had to do Mulligan or McKenzie or Maitland or all these other things, and you had to kind of nail your flag to a post and say, I'm this type of therapist. And now I think you can go and listen to people like me and Adam and Greg and whoever else is delivering CPD. And you know what? Go away and make up your own mind. Take the best bits. Take the bits that resonate with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think rather than learning a system up to level 591, learn different things from different people. It's going to give you a much more rounded perspective.
That's a lovely idea. That's a great way of categorizing modern CPD. Yeah, go and take away what you want, what resonates with you. That's very nice, as opposed to old school. Gary Benson, founder of the STA, has joined us. He's driving home. I think he said, I've enjoyed listening whilst driving home. Some great discussion. I had a few conversations with Ben before he was famous, and the STA was embryonic. That was doing quite a long time ago. So yeah, no, that would have been
not when I was embryonic though.
So yeah, they were the days, weren't they? So yeah, Gary, thanks for joining us. Nikki Mansfield has joined in here with a comment. I'll read it out for people listening. Ben, for me, actually, just wait, it comes up again. For me, the challenge is finding ways to explain the non-mechanical element of a client's pain to them without them immediately taking it as dismissive. Can your course help with that?
Well, yeah, I think that comes from how you build relationship with people, doesn't it? I think that at the end of the day, if you listen to people, if you give them, good, eye contact, and you're able to summarize, and you're able to not use your writing reflex and all of these other things, I think when it does come to explaining things, people are much less likely to find it dismissive. So I don't think there are magic words that we can use with communication that resonate with other people. I think it's much more about how we make them feel, whether they feel listened to, whether they feel heard, these type of things. And I think when we do that effectively, when it comes to saying, well, look, I've listened, and actually, I think there may be some other things that we could discuss, which is fantastic. because it gives us some other options, some other avenues to go down. So I think it's more how we build partnership relationship that's really the key to explanation rather than the explanation itself.
Great answer. Good question, Nikki. Thanks for that. Right, I'm conscious, 8:55. So people who are listening to the podcast and obviously people in the live lounge, if you are interested, thanks for sharing, Imi and Sarah and Theo. If you're interested in doing this course, you're going to have to wait a little while because Ben's first got to go to New York City, Holland, Canada, and Norway. But then he will be in London on September the 23rd and the 24th. If people do want to sign up for the course or find more information, I guess they go to your website. That'd be the best place, 𝗁𝗏.
Yes,
kinetic.
Kinetic.
I always say kinetic.
I know you do. I've known
I know you do. 𝗁
10 years, man.
I'm going to work out why I've always said kinetic. I don't know why. Yeah, kinematics. I'll say kinematics. And
not kinematics.
Not kinematics. How bizarre.
Exactly. See,
it's the STA podcast, the source of CPD, even for the host. There you go. So 𝗁-kinetic.co.uk. And the good thing is, like I say, across social media, it is just 𝗁kinetic, at 𝗁kinetic, whether you want to follow Ben on Twitter or Instagram, wherever you want to go. So yeah, that's the date. But like we said at the beginning, it looks like Anna Maria from the ST school might be sorting something out for November. Did you say, Ben, maybe?
I think it's going to be, because I'm in New Zealand in November. So I think it will be the beginning of December.
Okay, so there'll be.
I don't know what state I'll be in after 10 days in New Zealand, but we'll see. We'll see how it works.
Excellent. But obviously, as always, with pretty much all our guests, there's a whole load of CPD out there in the form of either podcasts, in the form of their website, and also, I mean, we're going to have you and Adam back to spend a whole show on this. But of course, we haven't mentioned it yet. We've got the Better Clinician Project.
Oh, you
have!
What
a great name! What a great name! What says what's on the tin? Absolutely. So, in a nutshell, what's that about? Better Clinician Project.
Well, what it really is it's kind of a Netflixy type of thing for the physio MSK world. I don't know if you've heard of that Adam Meakins fellow. I only heard of him a little while ago, and then we decided to do like a business together. But really, what we wanted to create was low cost, easy accessible, easily digestible CPD you can get online, on your phone, on your iPad. All of these different things. And so you can go to sign up. It's £12 a month. We've got loads and loads of different topics, loads of different content, from back pain to shoulder. This month actually is axial spondyloarthritis, which is a good one. Last month was medial elbow pain. I think the month before that was something to do with shoulders. I switched off and just let Adam do it. So yeah, we try and cover lots of stuff and do it in a easily accessible, cheap, fun, and I think I think a pretty solid way as well.
Brilliant. Let me just bring it up for the people who are watching the video. I'll bring it up onto the screen so it's more visible. So yeah, you just go to the betterclinicianproject.co.uk, isn't it? Yeah, and then it's
.com.
Is it .com? Of course it is. You too. Of course it's .com. It's a monthly subscription, isn't it?
Yeah, £12 a month. I think it's ridiculous value, actually. It becomes better value every month.
3 lattes. Ridiculous. It's less than a latte a week. Incredible.
Yes, a mocha chocolate frappuccino.
Fantastic. Yes, that's something, if you can't wait to get involved in some Ben and also some Adam mixed in as well, which is a fantastic combination, I must admit. Then yeah, look out for the Better Clinician Project. When I was, you're going to like this. I was trying to think whether to read this out on the podcast or not, but I was looking at our Twitter conversations, Ben. I went back to September the 17th, 2013.
Wow.
And it was 12 p.m. and I got a little message from you here saying, you were talking about where you were going. November in Sunderland. So we can see how his net has widened a little bit. So November I'm in Sunderland. He's very proud of that as well. February I'm in London. I had Adam at a lecture the other day. Not convinced it was his thing. I've got that on here. So
I'm still not convinced it's his thing.
It hasn't changed years later.
No, definitely not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You two are a great mixture.
He he was like miserable. This was down in Canary Wharf, I think. And he sat there, he was miserable for like 2 hours and then he went home. So yeah, there you go.
That's a good combination. I really recommend that you guys check out betterclinicianproject.com. Wonderful combination of two educators, two huge educators come together, producing something very good. Right, I don't want to keep you because I know you need your beauty sleep. So thank you for joining us, people in the live lounge. Thank you so much, Theo and Imi and Sarah as well, for giving up your time for free and sharing the information.
In the post.
There's no payment for this, obviously. The only thing which brought them together was the fact they all got educated at the ST school, so they were already on a pretty cool page to then move into Ben's course. But yeah, thank you for sharing. Next week, talking of good courses in the ST school. Oh, next week there's a fantastic course coming to the ST school in May with a guy called Matt Phillips doing his gait analysis for runners, a modern approach. So that's going to be in May, and next week we're going to have him on, and Gary Benson's going to be talking to him about his course. So that'll be next week. So if you're into looking after runners and gait analysis, then do join us next week where I'll be on the other side of the seat. I'm going to sign out now. If you guys can just hang around here for another minute so I can say thank you once we've signed off. People in the live lounge, thank you so much for joining us. Nikki Mansfield, just the final comments, has said, I'm very interested in hosting some of Ben's courses in Cambridgeshire in 2024. Can I contact you for Ben's contact details, Matt? Yeah, of course, I'll just give it to you straight away. I'll give you his private Tinder address and everything. No worries. I shall give it to you without even.
I think the cool kids use like Bumble and stuff now, don't they? It's moved on, Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just showing my age again. Same as Kinetic.
Yeah, exactly.
Tracy Taylor has said, I guess last week, love the Better Clinician Project. I have learned so much from this. There we go. Who else we got? I was just flocking in now with comments. I want to know more about your course, Matt. Email you? Yeah, anytime. Hit me up. That's fine. You do that, Penny. And make sure you come in next week where I'll be revealing all. Nikki Mansfield, it was great to get students' perspective. Thanks all. So yeah, thanks to the people who came in again. And Gary Benson says thanks everyone. Right, we're signing out. If you're listening to the podcast, do me a favor of just leaving a rating and a review if you liked it. If you didn't like it, then fine, just don't come back. But if you did like it, 5 stars would be great. It just helps the good word of our guests appear higher up in Google, which is what this is all about. Sports Therapy Association podcast, just disseminating the information. We're just a conduit for good word, and the more you can support us, the better it gets out there, and we can change the world. So thank you very much. And if you do want to join us live, then all you got to do is go along to the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel, 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, and we will be here for you. Look after each other.